Hello and welcome to official week 2 of the Can-Ass podcast. It's also very excited to talk about sports again with you, man.
Oh yeah, same here, Victor.
So this week, we're going to talk about a few different things. We're going to start with the NFL. I know at the time of recording today, Sunday the 26th, there's only one game that's played so far. And that was Thursday Night Football between the Carolina Panthers and the Houston Texans. Then we're going to go straight to the Bundesliga, French Liga, the Women's Premier League, the Women's French League. From there, we're going to talk a little bit about tennis. So I know like the Grand Slam and the major season's really done for tennis, but there's this really cool tournament. It's Europe against the world, and there's 2 Canadians representing the world right now, which is pretty cool.
So this is kind of like the Ryder Cup for golf?
Yeah, Ryder Cup, but in tennis, yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, or the President's Cup, because Ryder Cup's only U.S., Europe. President's Cup is U.S. World, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Anyways. From there, we're going to talk about hockey, because, let's be honest, we can't have a Canadian content podcast without talking about hockey. All right, let's get started right away here. The Thursday Night Football. Carolina Panthers, Houston Texans game. For those of you who don't know football, Christian McCaffrey plays for the Carolina Panthers, and he is the typical consensus number 1 pick. I know my buddy's draft, he went first overall. Your
Mine
draft,
didn't.
no.
He didn't go first overall.
Anywho, McCaffrey, when healthy, is probably the best point-producing player in the league. When he's healthy. The guy is always injured. I feel so bad because he's such a talented player, but he's always injured. But that has some massive ramifications for a particular Canadian athlete. This year he was taken 4th round by the Carolina Panthers, and that is Sherwood Park, Chuba Hubbard from Bev Facey. So Chuba Hubbard was taken in the 4th round, and it's a pretty big deal because Chuba is a very similar playing style to Christian McCaffrey. He's like a dual threat running back, I find. He's not a huge guy. He's really skilled, though.
Yeah.
So Christian McCaffrey's injury played a big role for Chuba being able to, come in and, perform here, right? So I think, do you have the stats right in front of you? How did he do this last week? He had, I believe it was 11 carries for 52 yards, so just under 5 yards a carry, which is not bad at all. And he had a few receptions too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, he got 3 receptions for 27 yards.
Yeah, not bad.
So
9 yards.
Yeah.
A reception. Yeah, that's pretty good.
Basically.
This is a massive opportunity for Chuba. I know this is a rookie season. This isn't going to make or break him, but this could lead him to, if he does well, he could. He's never going to take the job away from McCaffrey, but they can implement a 2-back system that they had for when, last year when Mike Davis took over from McCaffrey, and McCaffrey came back for, a game before he got injured again. But this Carolina team is looking a lot better. They have a legit quarterback in Sam Darnold. Yeah, I really liked that play. They have really good, really strong wide receivers, actually. Their defense is, the best in the league right now. Mind you, they played against the New York Jets, and if you're a Jets fan out there, sincerely from the bottom of my heart, I am so sorry that your team is an atrocity. And then you played against the Saints, who they had again, I'm a Packers fan, and my Packers got absolutely just annihilated by the Saints week 1.
And then Carolina just destroys them in week 2.
Yeah, I know. That made me feel even worse about myself. So thank you.
You're welcome.
So frustrating. Anywho, and then the Panthers just absolutely manhandled the Saints week 2, which the Saints was a pretty decent team. And then week 3 against the Houston Texans, without their 2 quarterbacks, Deshaun Watson sitting out the season because
of what he's done.
Well, because of the accusations put forth against him. Let's just put it that way, okay? And then Tyrod Taylor, the poor guy, is always getting hurt too. He finally wins a starter's job, and then what happens the next day? Oh yeah, he got stabbed by his own doctor.
Didn't that what happened last year?
Last year, he got stabbed by his own doctor. They were doing a pain injection or something, right? And then they punctured his lung, and then Justin Herbert came in and won the job from him.
And basically just took it over, and he's just running with it.
Yeah, it was poor good. Anywho, so now Chuba Hubbard is playing on a pretty decent Carolina Panthers team right now. I mean, I would want to wait until maybe week 7 or 8 to see if they're actually legit or not. But
so far
they're doing pretty good. And Chuba Hubbard has a real chance because it's a hamstring injury. I'm not an expert on injuries, but hammies can be anywhere between 4 to 6 weeks depending on the severity. If it's just like a little strain, like you can't really play through an injured or strained hamstring. Yeah. It just makes it worse, right? Like, yeah.
And if Chuba Hubbard plays really well these coming weeks, Christian McCaffrey can just rest up and just come back even stronger.
100%. Like that could be so good for the Carolina Panthers.
Oh, definitely.
And Chuba Hubbard is, man, like from what I know, we've played facing in soccer back in the day, and that's so proud of that guy. Like they need to make a statue of the kid. Like already, it was like a game in.
Like
just make a statue.
My friends, they've played football against him, and my friends have been saying that he was really good when they faced him too. So
yeah, so it's pretty awesome to see all the Canadian talent coming out. Hey,
oh yeah,
like Chuba Hubbard is so cool. And then going from one, I'm gonna call him Edmontonian, buddy. Like he's an Edmontonian. Okay, Sherwood Park, not part of Edmonton. Okay, whatever. He's
Edmonton and area.
From one Edmonton area to another Edmonton area. Fonzo Davies.
Oh, Davies.
Buddy, that guy had. Did you watch his game this last week? I think he had a couple games, but did you see the last game they played, the 3-1 win?
No, I did not.
So he played really well, man. He didn't score a goal. He played left wing back. Bayern plays like a really interesting formation, but he played left wing back, so he's going up and down like crazy all the time, right? And he had a primary assist in the first goal. I would say he was a big part of the second play. He put the cross in that got deflected to his forward that scored. That was the second goal. So it's pretty good.
Pretty good.
Yeah, and then the third goal I don't think he really had anything to do with. But the fact that he played the full 90, and the fact that he played the full 90 when his other wing back got a red card in the game, Benjamin Pavard got a red card in like the 50-some minute. So that speaks wonders. Like they trusted him enough to like come back and play defensive while like maintaining the whole, the game plan. You're not going to stop trying.
No.
After the red card, right? You're going to still keep on. You're going to play a little more defensively maybe, but you're still going to go for the
goals.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, Fonzie had a heck of a game, man. Like he played super super well. And then that was the only game this week. The Champions League starts up again this week, so that's going to be super exciting to watch him play in that. And then we're going to talk about another Canadian man, and that's Jonathan David. His Lille played this week. And they had a pretty good game. Like, they played 2 games. Midweek, they played against Rem. They won 2-1. Jonathan David scored in the 31st minute. And then this is the last game they played. They also won 2-1. It was Saturday the 25th. And Jonathan David scored both goals.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So the first one was a really decent play by his winger. He made a play along the side, kept it in somehow on the goal line, passed it back to easy finish for Jonathan David. A nice finish by a legit number 9, a legit striker on that team. And then a penalty. He scored a 57-minute penalty. Nicely placed in the left side. I mean, penalties aren't a given though. Eh? Messi misses a bunch of those Ronaldo's, but just last game, Manchester United, Bruno Fernandes missed a penalty to tie it up in the 95th minute. They're not always makeable. It's super tough for the goalie to save them.
Yeah.
But a lot of the times it's just the missing.
It's more mental than anything.
Oh yeah. So that was a pretty good week for Canadians in the male soccer leagues over there in Europe. Not too bad. We had a few playing in the MLS as well. I saw Richie Larea had a decent game too. Buchanan, he had a decent game too. Buchanan is actually moving over to Belgium. I remember I told you that last week.
Yes, you did. Yeah.
So he should be playing. Yeah, it is pretty sweet. He's finishing out a loan spell with his current team right now, but he is moving over there. So.
Oh, so he is part of that Belgium team?
So he got sold by his current by the team he's playing on right now in the MLS.
Okay. He
got sold by them. I think it was a New England Revolution. He got sold by them to the Belgian team, but the Belgian team immediately put him on loan to the New England Revolution to finish off the season.
Just to finish the season.
Yeah, okay. I believe so at least.
That makes
So,
sense.
which is a typical thing to do for European teams, honestly, because then he'll come in because this season, the MLS finishes in like December, I think, right? So like he would go for the second half of the season over to the Belgian side.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so he'll be pretty decent with there. And then, yeah, I mean, Mark Anthony Kaye played for the Colorado Rapids. Like it was a pretty decent week overall. I mean, we're only focusing on the two main guys in Alphonso Davies and Jonathan David because, if respectfully, I think they're going to be the face of Canadian men's soccer for a very, very long time.
Especially Davies.
Oh yeah,
Oh yeah,
100%. And then so now, but like I realized, so our Canadian women's soccer team won the gold medal in the Olympics. I'm going to be completely honest with you. I still watch the video of them winning. Like I watch it 2 times a week minimum. It's just like my pick me up. It's the way I make myself happy in the day. Sometimes like, dude, I remember I cried. I'll be straight up with you. I cried tears of joy when we won. I had to listen on the radio because I was late for work. So I was pulling into work. Listen, I was about to go in through the Starbucks, and then we scored. Julia Grosso scored that last penalty, and I'm like, buddy, I was in tears. I was so freaking happy. So happy. Anywho, we have a bunch of women playing right now, man. So like, we have the Manchester City women's team has Janine Becky, and Janine Becky had a pretty decent week. Like Manchester City just lost 2-1 against Tottenham, but they won their previous game, I believe, against Everton. And Janine Becky was a pretty big role in there. She's in the starting lineup there, if I'm not mistaken, almost every week. So. And that's a pretty big deal because Manchester City's a pretty decent team. And then we have Jessie Fleming, who's my personal favorite player ever. She's playing in Chelsea. She's an attacking mid, but Chelsea is such a deep team. She's a substitute for now, but she got subbed in last week and scored a goal in like the 93rd minute, so like 3 minutes into stoppage time.
Well, that's gonna help her to like start being in the lineup, in the starting lineup.
Yeah, absolutely agree. Yeah, and
just
then
optimizing your playing time and scoring goals, and then that'll definitely help her get to the starting lineup.
I think so. I think the more experience she gets, the more practice and everything she gets, she'll just more and more she'll gain her confidence. I mean, she's always a very confident woman, anyways. But like, regardless. And then from there, so we don't have too many women playing in the English league. We have a few in the French league actually. So after her gold medal performance, Stephanie Labay got signed to the PSG women team, and like that's a really strong team. That's one of the stronger teams in Europe. I think Lyon's the number 1 team if I'm not mistaken, but like it's up there, and she's their starting goalie. She had a clean sheet this last week, so that was a pretty big deal. And then on that same team, Ashley Lawrence plays, and Jordan Heidema. I mean, it was good. Jordan Heidema came in to the game. I think so. The only starters on that team that are Canadian are LeBay and Ashley Lawrence. But Ashley Lawrence is the wing back, so that's a pretty big deal. They have a lot of like the wing backs over in Europe play like a massive role out there. So it's like, yeah, I like that. Ashley Lawrence is probably one of the best informed Canadians out there right now, to be completely honest with you. And yeah, Jordan Heidema got subbed into that game, so again, not in the starting lineup, but still playing some decent minutes. Yeah, I mean, she got subbed in at a reasonable time too, like in the 57th minute, so she played quite a bit. And then the Lyon team has a few more Canadians as well. So actually it's just Kadisha Buchanan, if I'm not mistaken, and she actually scored a goal. A center back scored a goal this week.
Oh damn, nice.
Very nice. Yeah, it doesn't happen too often.
No.
So, yeah, a lot of Canadian talent happening out there over in Europe. So it's quite exciting, to be completely honest with you. I'm pretty pumped about that. So, again, the Champions League is this week, so we'll have a few games to watch. We'll have a couple more Canadians in Atiba Hutchinson and Kyle Larin playing. We don't touch too much on the Turkish league. It's really just the two Besiktas and Galatasaray. And then unfortunately, there's really not many providers that show the league. Really, it's really tough to watch. Yeah,
tough to watch. Yeah, you'd have to find ways to watch those games, but
yeah, you can probably find a way of streaming it.
Yeah,
I have DAZN. DAZN gives me the Bundesliga, League One, Champions League, so that's a really easy way of watching it.
Like the major.
Yeah, they give you the major ones, but not Unfortunately, not the other ones. But you know what? You can't really complain too much about that, right? So, yeah, so we're going to be watching two more Canadians there, and then Milan Borjan playing in the Europa League again. That'll be a nice thing. So we'll have a lot more to catch up on this week for
I'm
Canadian
thinking
men's.
like once Canadian soccer like becomes bigger because of all these players like performing well, it'll probably like contribute to us getting more ways to be able to watch all those games.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. Like right now, there's one soccer for the Canadian Premier League. Like we didn't have that a while back. We didn't even have a Canadian Premier League a while back. You know what I mean? Like, and personally for me, I don't think it's just the men playing well. I think the fact that the women are playing so dominant is putting more people into sports, men, boys, or girls. You know what I mean? Like it's. I don't think we can underestimate the power of Christine Sinclair and that whole Canadian women's team. Like it's. They should all have statues on Parliament or something. Like this is absurd. Like Christine Sinclair,
like
Diane,
photo.
yeah, like
But
Sophie
statues.
Schmidt, Karina LeBlanc. Who else am I thinking of? Like a bunch of goalies. Diana Matheson, Melissa Tancredi. Oh, and then we completely forgot. Like so, the women's soccer league out in the States. Like that's a pretty decent league, and Christine Sinclair scored for her Portland Thorns too. So and she's the captain there too. Yeah, it's been a nice week for Canadians in soccer, that's for sure. A few different goals, so can't complain. I mean, when Jonathan David scores 3 goals in a weekend, that's not bad at all, right? Like, or sorry, in a week, not a weekend. I think that's everything for soccer, though. Hey, like we're probably missing the MLS obviously and that kind of stuff, but we already talked about that. So going from soccer to another, personally one of my favorite sports to watch. We're moving to the Laver Cup. It was this weekend. They had games Friday, Saturday, and today, Sunday. They're having some games too. But I mean, Team Europe already won pretty much. I think they've only lost one game. It was doubles.
Game,
and you know what? Denis Shapovalov was part of that doubles team that won. So good job on Canada. And Felix had a good run against one of the top players in the world too, in Matteo Berrettini. But yeah, so we have Denis Shapovalov and Felix Auger-Aliassime playing for Team World. I'm going to be completely honest with you, the best players in the world right now are all European. So it was a massive, massive hill to climb if they were going to even have a chance of winning, right? But
just being part of like that team
Yeah.
is just still a huge achievement, I would say.
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Just being a part of that team is a big deal. In the world rankings, they're both pretty decent, like pretty high up there, if I'm not mistaken. I think they're both in like the top, they're definitely both in the top 20. If I'm not mistaken, like Chapo is I think 10th and Felix is like 12th, I think, after his U.S. Open run semifinal. We can fact check that later, but not the end of the world. They're pretty decent, man. Like the fact Chapo's a lefty, I think that in itself is a huge advantage for him. Yeah, I mean being a lefty in almost anything really, especially like a 1v1 sport or 2v2 sport, it's like it just provides like a different angle of the shots and everything. And they're both. Personally, for me, I think the best Canadian men's player right now is Chapo, but he's also the most inconsistent. So if Chapo's playing his best tennis, I do think he can compete for a major trophy. Just his style of play, like he's got a nice strong serve. He's got his backhand is lethal, really lethal backhand if he plays it well. And then from there, you got like his forehand is pretty decent too, and again, the fact that he's a lefty, just shaping those shots around, so like his forehand goes to the other guy's backhand, which is a little which is like tougher for the righties, right? So I think Chapo is our best player, but I also think Felix is getting up there, man. Felix is like a year younger than Chapo, I think. He had a pretty decent. He had a really decent showing against Berrettini, like a really, really, really decent showing. I was really impressed. The fact that he took it to he won the first set and then lost the second set, and then that was like lost 10-8 in the tiebreak. Which, for those who don't know, like the tiebreak in these tournaments, it's like first to 10 but win by 2, if I'm not mistaken, and it's like individual shots.
So it's not regular like up to 7.
No, they do like a super tiebreak, I think is what they call it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think you still have to win by 2. Yeah, I'm pretty positive.
I'm pretty sure you have to win by 2.
So like the men are playing right now, but yeah, the fact that we have 2 Canadians representing the men's side is pretty big deal. But like you look at the world rankings, we have the 2 highest ranking North American non-Europeans are Canadian. Felix is 11th, and Dennis
Okay.
is 12th. So I just fact checked myself, but the
And
top
then
10 are
it's-
all Europeans.
then it's
So
Felix and Dennis.
we're obviously a little like, you know.
And they're both young, so
Yeah.
they'll definitely get up to like definitely like top 5.
I think
for
so.
sure.
I think they'll get to that point. Like I think for me, the best player in the world right now is Daniil Medvedev. I think that guy, that Russian guy, he's so good. He's so good, and when he plays the way he can play, he's unstoppable. Really, he's playing so well. I think, like I said, I'm going to stick with my stance, man. I really think Dennis is the best Canadian we have right now. I think Felix is a heck of a player, and I think he'll get to that point. But right now, I personally feel Dennis is a little bit better. He's just more inconsistent. So once you get the experience and once you get the more playing under your belt of that high level, and this tournament is huge for him too. Like he's getting a lot of help with that, right? So
It's definitely like a learning experience.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, Team World got absolutely manhandled. Like we're not going to sugarcoat this. It was not. It was tough, man. Like again, the top 10 players in the world are all European. And like I don't necessarily know exactly who's there representing Europe, but I do know that Medvedev, Tsitsipas, Zverev, and Rublev. So numbers 2 through 5 are all there. I mean, they're there for a reason, right? Like their ranking is really high up for a very good reason. So, anyways, Canada made it to the finals of the last Davis Cup that was held. That's not a small feat. That's huge. And then the Davis Cup is already starting, and Canada's already qualified for the finals. Like, not the final 2, but like the finals of the Davis Cup. It's like a format, it's kind of like the World Cup finals. It's like
So it's
30
like
some
the
teams competing.
The
tournament, yeah.
tournament.
So like, I think they're still qualified for that. So that's pretty big. I think they'll have a decent showing there. Well, if we have a healthy Milos and Vasek, absolutely. Like Shapo and Felix will be the singles, and then even Milos and Vasek will play doubles, or Shapo and Vasek. I think Vasek is like the double specialty guy now that Nestor's retired. I think Canada can do a pretty decent showing, honestly. I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to seeing how it's going to go. So yeah, it's going to be from November 25th to December 5th in Spain. So it should be pretty good. Yeah, and then Canada's group, it's not actually, I'm going to be honest, Canada should absolutely destroy in their group. We're not going to sugarcoat this. We have Kazakhstan and Sweden. Bublik I think is the only guy in the top 100 in that group, to be honest with you. Canada should be doing good. Like, again, the two young guys have an ability of playing down to their opponents, but also playing up at some points, right? Like, Felix's U.S. Open semifinal loss to Medvedev, it was a lot closer than people give credit for. Like, he had a set point, if I'm not mistaken, or he had the opportunity of winning the set because he was up a break leading into the final game. Medvedev broke him. And then, like, yeah, he had a really good showing against Medvedev. Like, that's not something to be underestimated. But, yeah, Canada should win their group easily. Like, Bublik is in 34th in the world. And, like, I don't see anybody else. Yannick Murr is 75th, and he's Swedish. Yeah, they have their top players. They only have one player in each of those two teams that is in the top 100. We have two guys in the top 12, so we should win.
We should.
Yeah, absolutely agree. That it should make for a good tournament, man. It should be good. Like we're lucky we didn't have like France has Great Britain and Czech. Great Britain has a couple of really good players, so that'll be a really hard fought match. Croatia, Australia, Hungary. Croatia and Australia have both good players. USA, Italy, Colombia. Italy has the better players, in my opinion. Berrettini and Fognini than USA, Opelka and Isner. So that should be a good matchup too. And then Serbia, Germany, Austria. Yeah, looking at these groups, Canada got by far the easiest group.
Yeah, they got really lucky.
We have to really put a good effort in there. I think they can beat most of these teams. They'll be hard pressed against Russia, I think. And I think that's going to be the toughest opponent. I think Germany's number 2 isn't anywhere near as good as Canada's number 2. In the world ranking wise, there's only the only country that has more or 2 players ranked ahead of the 2 Canadians is Russia. Medvedev and Rublev, 2 and 5, Russia. I think Canada, as long as we don't play Russia until the final, if we're in opposite brackets, I honestly think we have a good chance. So even making it to the semi should be a decent run. As long, again, the matchups. I don't feel
in our
confident against
favor,
Russia,
yeah.
but I feel good against everybody else. So that's a lot of tennis, man. It's exciting because like Canada's provide, and like we didn't even talk about the women. The women aren't playing in any big tournaments right now. We'll talk about that probably closer to Australian Open.
Yeah.
But we didn't even talk about the women, where we have two of the better young players in the world too. As long as Bianca stays healthy.
And then Layla.
Layla's good.
Yep.
Yeah. Again, I don't see Layla getting injured. Knocking on wood as we speak, but her style of play isn't as physical as Bianca Andreescu. So I hopefully if Layla stays healthy too, but I just really want Bianca to get healthy, man. Like that 1-2 punch Canada can produce is so lethal. They're so good. Anywho, yeah. So going from tennis, we got to talk about hockey, man. This is a Canada
That's a
sport
weird jump.
and yeah, it's a little bit weird, I guess, but like actually not really, because if I'm not mistaken, Connor McDavid picked up tennis this last year, so.
Okay, so
Nope,
Good
not
segue,
a
good
weird
segue.
jump at all. Yeah,
Nope,
I can
yeah.
confirm actually. He went to Sweet Spot just off of like 119th, I think, to pick up tennis rackets.
the
My
one
dad
that's
was
just like
there.
off white.
Yeah, he
So
was.
109.
Yeah, so my dad was right there.
So he was there.
He was there.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's pretty cool.
And then it was pretty cool. So my dad was telling me like the people at White Spot were super chill, man. And they were like, "Hey Connor, thanks for what you do here," and that's it. Like that's all they did, which is nice because Edmonton hockey fans, we suck, dude. There's so many garbage fans out there, like just yelling. Like I saw somebody tweet Cody Ceci giveaway in the first preseason scrimmage to Kyler Yamamoto, and they're like, "Oh, this is gonna be a long season." I'm like, yeah, it will. You negative Nancy, just shut your face, man. Like this is so
Just
frustrating.
Relax and go for the ride.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just like be a good human being. Like it's really not that difficult to be a good human being.
Nope.
So frustrating. Anyways,
Just
we're
look
not
at
gonna.
me.
Yeah, right.
I'm a good human being.
But yeah, so we're gonna talk a little bit about the NHL. So I think right now we're just gonna focus on the Canadian teams. Training camps start at the moment of recording. We have a preseason startup between Oilers and Flames, and then a bunch of other preseason games are getting started right now. This is a really exciting time. Just all the seasons are like either so the MLB postseasons
About to
finishing
start.
up,
Yeah.
like or sorry, about to start. The season's finishing up, and then the NHL season's starting up. NBA is about to start up too.
Football's underway.
Football's underway. Yeah, which we'll talk about the MLB to finish off the episode. So don't worry about that. We're going to talk a little bit about the Jays, but anywho. So the NHL season's starting up, and there's obviously we know there's 7 Canadian teams. The Canadian teams are. I honestly feel pretty good about these teams. So Toronto, I'll start with Toronto. I'll start with like the ranking of how they placed last year. Toronto, I think they're going to do pretty well this year. They're in a really tough division though, so it's going to be interesting to see how they fare against the other teams. I'm not convinced on their goaltending situation quite yet. Later on this week, we're going to be releasing a couple of videos on how we project the Canadian teams to be playing. Mostly, we're going to start with the Western Conference, and next week we'll probably do Eastern Conference.
You mean the Western Canadian teams?
Western Canadian, sorry. Western
teams?
Canadian and Eastern Canadian.
That'd be a
teams.
lot of teams to talk about for the Western Conference and Eastern.
Well, I'm saying the Western Conference Canadian teams
Okay.
also. Yes. So the Western teams and then the Eastern teams as well we'll talk about. But so I think right now Toronto is probably the best of the Canadian teams. But again, it's their goaltending that's, for me, it's just messing with my head. I don't see how their combination of Mrazek and Campbell are going to do are going to maintain it. They have a decent defensive core. Like Muzzin and Riley are pretty good. They're not like ultra defensive or ultra offensive. Like it's a nice little balance that they have going on. Their third pairing I'm not convinced on. But I do think that they'll finish pretty decent in their division. Like I think they are a playoff team. Do I think they're going to win in the first round?
No.
They never
say
do.
no, 'cause they never do.
Until they do it, I don't see it. You understand what I'm saying? Like until they physically win those games, I do not.
Until they get over that hump.
Yeah, until they get over that hump, I don't like. Oh, it's so. I feel for Toronto fans. But then at the end of the day, there's so many jerks out there too, like Oilers fans, that I don't really necessarily feel too bad for them, right? So, I do think Toronto is a playoff team. Where will they finish first or fourth in their division? I think that they're going to finish like in around the 3 and 4, just because they have Tampa Bay, they have Boston in that division. Like those are two really good teams. Florida, if I'm not mistaken, is also in that division.
Yeah.
Like
the only thing I'm kind of scared for Toronto is their like left wing, like all of their left wing.
Okay, do
like,
tell.
We can go in more depth when we talk about them later next week. But just right now, like their top two lines for their center and their right wing, amazing. But then it's just a bunch of not random players, but just not as strong as their other side.
That's fair. So Toronto's division, they're in there with Montreal and Ottawa as well. So I think Toronto's better than both Montreal and Ottawa, especially with Montreal's injury problems that they're having right now.
Yeah.
And I think they only have two legit playoff teams in that group, Boston and Tampa. And then they have Florida, Montreal, Buffalo, Ottawa, Detroit. Buffalo is an absolute disgrace to hockey. So they're going to finish dead last. It'll be a good battle between Ottawa, Detroit, and Buffalo for last place. I do think Ottawa finishes maybe 5th or 6th in that group. I don't see how Tampa doesn't win it, and I don't see how Boston doesn't finish in 2nd. Which would make a Tampa or a Toronto-Boston first round in the playoffs. Again. Which will be insane.
Yes. And then everyone is going to cheer. Everyone in Canada is going to cheer for Boston.
You know, I'm going to be honest with you. I got a couple of really good buddies who are Toronto fans and like people that I actually like and respect. So I kind of want to see Toronto win a round at least this year.
Well, I'm going to cheer for Boston if it happens.
Yeah, fair enough. And then we'll move over to Montreal. Montreal is in tough again, like as we were mentioning in their group. They have 2 of the 3 worst teams in the NHL in their division, in Buffalo and Detroit.
I think Detroit is going to improve from what they acquired during the offseason, but Montreal is going to definitely be way better than those two.
Yeah, I mean, and Detroit, so one of their best players is Tyler Bertuzzi, one of their young players, and he chose not to get the vaccine, so he's not going to play in any of the Canadian cities. So, like, that, too, is an advantage for the Canadian teams. They don't have one of Detroit's better players playing there, so yeah, I mean, I think Montreal is a shoo-in to at least finish 5th. I think Montreal's still a better team than Ottawa. Once Carey Price gets uninjured, gets healthy, I think him and Jake Allen, sorry, not Josh Allen, that's football. Once him and Jake Allen are really good 1-2 punch in the NHL right now, Jake Allen can hold the fort until Carey Price gets back, I think. I really feel that their Weber injury is going to hurt them a lot, though.
Oh yeah, no, that's a definite hard blow to their defense.
And then lastly, on the eastern side of the Canadian teams, we got Ottawa. So Ottawa last year finished last in the Canadian division, if I'm not mistaken, and they're rebuilding. They've been rebuilding for a few years now after they traded Erik Karlsson away.
Did they finish strong last year?
They finished strong, man. They finished pretty good. Like if they would have played half decent against the Edmonton Oilers last year, I think they would have finished probably 5th or 6th, honestly. Edmonton would have finished 3rd, but you know what, whatever. We still would have gotten swept in the first round, so I digress. I think Ottawa's a good team. I really think Ottawa's going to develop. Their GM, Pierre Dorion, came out and said that the rebuild is over. They're going to start building for the future now. Like, they're going to start, they've built for the future, and now they're going to play for now. So I'm feeling pretty confident in the Ottawa Senators. I think they'll be a pretty strong team this year. I think they have a really, really good core. If Matt Murray actually starts playing like Matt Murray can, I think they have a legit number 1. But that's if Matt Murray plays. I think with every passing year that he's been terrible, I think it's getting out the window, really. They have a good young guy out in there, too. That's Matt Murray's backup. But I don't know if he's a legit starter.
But they did pay Murray the big bucks to be the starter, so he just has to play like he played when he won the Cup with Pittsburgh.
Yeah. I mean, teams I think have started to actually figure Murray out, so I think that's so. If I'm going to be honest, so the Atlantic Division this year, I think it'll be Tampa 1, Boston 2, Toronto 3, Florida 4, Montreal 5, Ottawa 6, Detroit 7, Buffalo 8.
Yeah, I can do that.
Yeah. Moving on, so there's one Canadian team in the Western Conference's Central Division. It's Winnipeg Jets. Winnipeg Jets have probably one of the better goalies, if not the best goalie in the league, in Connor Hellebuck. I think they're in tough games. Colorado is always going to be a really good team. Chicago improved a lot this year just by adding Jones and Fleury. Jonathan Toews is coming back too, so that should be a much improved Chicago team. I do think Winnipeg is a playoff team in that division. They have St. Louis, who's regressing a little bit. We have Dallas, Nashville, Minnesota. So yeah, we can talk about that more later on in the week, but their buyouts, I think, is what screwed them over for the next.
Oh, definitely,
decade.
yeah.
I mean, they do have Kirill Kaprizov. They have a good.
Was still good too.
Yeah.
So
they have a good 1-2 punching goalie too. Like Talbot, when he plays the way Talbot can, is a really good goalie. I wouldn't put him elite, but it's still a good goalie.
Yeah.
But I do think now Winnipeg makes it into the playoffs.
I'd say
Colorado's
3.
a better team. Right now, I think Chicago will probably be a better team, depending on how Fleury plays and how Jonathan Toews comes back. But I do think Chicago can be. I think they will be fighting Minnesota and
St. Louis,
Dallas, and St. Louis for the 3, 4, 5 spots.
I think they can beat them.
I think so. My biggest thing is that defense, man. That defense is not super solid. I mean, they added to it this offseason,
yeah.
but I don't think it's enough still. I don't and they have really good lower depth in the lower forward lines, and they're like I said, Connor Hellebuck is elite goalie. If
it's basically their defense that's gonna.
I honestly feel it's their defense. Yeah, I really do.
Bring them down.
Yeah. So I think, for me, I'm going to play it safe. I think they place anywhere in the 3 to 5 spot. I will put them in 4th, just in the middle.
I would say 4th, but definitely
I do think it is a playoff push.
Yeah.
Now, moving on to the Pacific, where we have Edmonton, Vancouver, and Calgary. I'm so angry that Arizona left our division, and we have Seattle in there now, because Arizona is the other team who's tanking, and it's not even, they're not even hiding it. They're completely tanking.
They, lost
Absolute
everybody,
disgrace.
practically.
It's so embarrassing for hockey, anyways. But now our division has Vegas, Edmonton, Vancouver, Calgary, Seattle, Anaheim, Los Angeles, San Jose. Anaheim, Los Angeles, San Jose, not great teams.
No.
Not great teams right now.
Out of the 3, LA is probably the better of those 3.
I think so, and I think they made a lot of additions that made them a lot better.
Yeah.
I still think Vegas wins this division. I think they're just way too deep.
It would be close, I would say, with Vegas and Edmonton.
I think Vegas is way too deep. They still. It all depends on how Leonard does, right? If
yeah,
Edmonton,
exactly.
Let's go with. We'll finish out with Edmonton, okay? But Calgary, I think they regress from last year. I think
agree.
The loss of Mark Giordano, I don't think can be taken lightly. I think that is a massive loss. There was a very strong defensive core, is I think what Calgary's strength is their strong defensive core. And Jacob Markstrom is an elite goalie. Let's not even kid ourselves. He's a good goalie, Jacob Markstrom.
He had an off year.
He had an off year, but when he plays at the level he can, he's a very, very strong goalie. So, with Giordano's loss, I don't know if they win. I think Vancouver, Edmonton, Vegas, and maybe even Seattle are better than Calgary right now.
In the division, yeah.
Yeah.
No, yeah.
So, I think Calgary finished 5th. They might be battling LA for the 5th and 6th spot, but I do think they finish in 5th.
I see them on the outside looking in.
Yeah.
I don't think Hannafin will be able to carry all of the defense for Calgary.
Their defense is elite though. It's a very good defense.
It's still good, but it's.
Who do you have? You have Hannafin back there. You have Tanev back there. You got
Anderson.
Yeah, Anderson's they're from 1 to 5, very, very, very strong. Their 6th one can go in and out, but every team usually has one of those guys, so that's totally fine. There's 6, 7 guys, but I don't think it's enough, man. Johnny Gaudreau's regressing. They don't have a legit number 1 center, in my opinion. They have a very solid defensive center in Michael Backlund. And then they have Monahan, but he's not an elite number 1 center, I don't think. I think he's a Nuge. He can be a decent number 2, but a very
Don't
good
forget Lindholm. Lindholm is very underrated.
I completely agree, but he's a winger, and wingers don't have as much of an effect on the game. Right? A winger needs a good center typically, and I don't think Lindholm has that number 1 center. I also think Matthew Tkachuk is a heck of a player. I hate him with every ounce of my being. So, yeah, I think Lindholm plays left wing. He can play center, but they have him as a winger. So I And he's not as good as a center as he is a left winger. Mm-hmm. So it makes it a little bit tough for that to it makes it tough for Calgary to score. Next is Vancouver. Depending on how their RFA situation goes, I think Vancouver can finish 2-3. I think they have a better goaltender tandem than the Oilers do. I think Thatcher Demko is an underrated goalie. I think Thatcher Demko can be one of the better goalies in the league this year.
And then they have Halak, which is a really good get.
Yeah, Yaroslav Halak, a really solid backup for that team. A lot of people have Thatcher Demko getting some Vezina nods. I don't see it.
I don't see
but
it.
I do think if Vancouver does well, it's because of Demko.
Oh,
however, their RFA situation right now, if they don't have Quinn Hughes and Elias Pettersson, they're a garbage team.
No, I definitely.
Bo Horvat is an elite defensive center. I think he's going to get some consideration for the Selke in years to come. He's a tremendous leader, and I think he's getting that team in the right shape.
Brock Besser's
a very good winger. When healthy. Yeah, Pettersson is the number one center in this league, 100%. This is so painful for me to say because I really don't like Vancouver. But they're a good team. And I really think they'll be challenging Edmonton for a 2-3 spot. Their defensive core is decent, but without Quinn Hughes and without Elias Pettersson, first off, they're not going to score a single power play goal. That's like their most elite power play specialists. Pettersson 1 and Horvat 2 is a really solid 1-2 punch. I think it's probably the second best 1-2 punch that a Pacific Division team has to offer. Like Vegas doesn't have very good, like the best centers in the world. Edmonton does have the two best centers in the world. So I think Vancouver finishes 2-3. I think they'll finish 3.
I think 3. I
think 3 is realistic. I think Seattle didn't do enough in that expansion draft plus offseason. Like they have the best goaltending tandem in the league, I think, in Grubauer and Drieger. But I don't think they're they don't have enough offense in that team. But Vegas proved to us that a good goaltending tandem and a good defense is what's going to get you into the playoffs and win games, right?
And they do have a good defense.
Yeah,
Seattle.
Very solid defense. Larson went over there too, and Giordano's going to be a really good leader over there. Their number one center is Yanni Gourde, though, so I don't see much offense coming out of that team. And Jordan Eberle is probably one of their better forwards too. Like nothing against Eberle, but he's not an elite forward anymore.
And they did get Schwartz too.
Yeah, but they're all complimentary guys, right?
True.
There's no big guy out there. I mean, they might have drafted him this year, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes. I don't see Seattle for me finishes 4th, and then Edmonton. You're saying they fight with Vegas, and I think they can. However, this is my biggest thing with the Oilers. If Mike Smith plays the way he did last year,
yes,
this is a number 1 or 2 team, 100%. I don't think anybody can really argue that too much. If Mike Smith plays like he did 2 years ago, this isn't even a playoff team. With the offense that we have, I honestly feel, and this is a little biased obviously, but Edmonton has probably the strongest offensive core in the league.
We'll just have to play like 80s hockey, just outscore everybody.
Yeah, but you don't do that anymore.
No.
You don't do that. You need to win with a good goaltending and good defense. And, man, I have no faith in Mikko. I'm sorry, man.
Me neither.
He lets in the first shot of so many games, and we're always behind. The way I watched maybe like 30 Oilers games last year, start like the whole thing, and like half of those were Mikko starts. I don't know why I did that to myself, but I did. And like he lets in the first goal, and then the whole team just gets completely demoralized. And like that needs to be on the team. The team can't let that affect you. You can't. And I think the Duncan Keith addition will help with that because it's a lot of leadership in that one man. But yeah, I think if our goaltending holds up, then yes, we are the second best, and we can challenge for first in the division. I really feel that. If our goaltending regresses at all, I honestly feel we're going to be hard-pressed to even make the playoffs.
I think like if our goaltending starts to falter, Holland should try to get a goalie before it does.
I think he tried all year. I think everybody's like, oh, Holland needs to do this, Holland needs to do that. But he's a Hall of Fame general manager. Let's first point that out. He knows his stuff. And you're absolutely right. I think Holland is going to really – I think he's good for now, like looking and seeing how it is. But if any of those two falter at all, I do think you're right. I think he will go for it.
Shopping for a goalie.
But I do think he's been doing that all year. I don't think he's stopped looking in the goalie market. He was in on Kemper. That at the end didn't turn out, which I'm okay with. I wouldn't want to give up a first in Samorukov. That'd be our equivalent. A first Samorukov and then like a third rounder for 1 year of Kemper. I wouldn't have done that.
That's true, yeah. 1 year Kemper isn't that good, yeah.
I would have done that for John Gibson, but not for Kemper. And
I did for like a couple years of Kemper.
I would do it for like, yeah, if we signed Kemper on a good contract, yeah, I would do that for Kemper. But it has to be not for just one season.
Not for one season, no.
Right? Like Samorukov is a good piece, is a good player. I really think he can turn into a really good third pairing, maybe top 4 guy. Right? But anywho.
We'll go into more depth.
We'll go into more depth in the week, yeah. And then lastly, we're going to really quickly touch base on the Blue Jays. So the Blue Jays have played themselves out of the playoffs right now. They are now outside looking in. They are lucky that they're playing. They're playing the Twins this week, the next couple of games, and then they have a series against the Yankees and a series against the Orioles. So if the Blue Jays sweep the Yankees, they're going to be back in. But that's a big if. The Yankees and Red Sox are currently in a series right now, so that's a huge win for them. So as long as they beat the Twins, they'll be gaining ground on one of those two teams. So that'll be huge. They still have a chance. I'm not going to say they don't have a chance. They still definitely have a chance. However, I really do not see them winning. Like now I see like their pitching has really let them down. Like Robbie Ray's been solid. Barrios has been okay, but their pitching has let them out. Like if they get hot at the right time, this is the time to get hot, and this is the time you can push. But it's just unfortunate that they did this to themselves. But it's a good learning experience. Good young team. Next year they'll come back stronger. Hopefully they'll get more pitching help. Hopefully they re-sign Barrios. Sorry, not Barrios. Actually, yeah, Barrios, Simeon, and Ray. Hopefully they re-sign those guys to good contracts and then go from there. I think that's all the time we have for this week. Thank you all for listening to our nice long episode this week. It's been there's a lot of stuff that we're going to talk about next week. A lot of stuff to watch this week. Make sure you watch the Champions League. There will be some good games in there. Make sure you watch over the weekend. You can watch some Women's Premier League. I believe that's on DAZN as well, or you can like stream it online as well. Laver Cup will be done by the time this episode is this video is posted, so you don't have to watch the Laver Cup anymore. Don't worry about that, but. Yeah, and then have some fun this week for the NHL preseason start. Like, this is going to be a lot of fun. And we're going to diverge a little bit more into the Canadian teams later on this week. So make sure you tune in to see how the Canadian teams look and their differences from last year to this year and how a more in-depth look on how we think they're going to do. Thank you very much for tuning into this week, and we'll see you next week.
See ya.